All right, so today we're going to learn about beef short ribs. And these are beef short ribs, which I had cut to a certain length. You can get them usually at a good butcher, Whole Foods. You basically have a liquid. In this case, I have a little bit of stock, but you can use water. You can use bought-in chicken broth kind of stuff, or beef broth if you like, which I don't recommend. I would either have a nice broth that you made, or I would use something like water, because water is perfectly acceptable for this application. So the basic process is this. You have your liquid hot or boiling, you sear your meat, and then you combine it with your vegetables and your cooking liquid, some herbs, and then you slide it in the oven for about 2.5 hours. And I say for about because this is one of those things that it cooks inconsistently, and you as a cook have to step in there and kind of feel your way through it. And when they're done, they're done. And this one might be done before this one, so you're gonna wanna monitor those, and I'll show you how to do that when the time comes. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take the beef over and we're gonna sear it. So we're gonna come over here to the stove, and everything I do, I make sure I season with salt and pepper, and then we're just gonna sear those real good. I'm just gonna do 3 of them right now. So season them, and if you notice, there's a bone side and there's a meat side. Most of the time I will tell you to sear it all over and get nice color and flavor and all that kind of stuff. But in the case of short ribs, you don't want to sear the bone side because it'll degrade the integrity of the meat, or actually the relationship between the bone and the connective tissue. So you just want to sear the chubby meat side, and you can see we're doing that. And then what you can also do is add a little bit of oil, in this case coconut oil, which will help the sear. I just put a little bit of pan spray in here initially, got the pan hot. So there's that part of it. So that's searing. If you look closely back here, you'll be able to see that the liquid is boiling. And this is this really nice Le Creuset pot that's great for this kind of preparation. What we want to do now is I'm going to crank the heat underneath the Le Creuset pot, and we're going to throw these onions in there. And you'll notice we have other vegetables here. We've got a little bit of fennel, which is kind of nice, which is right here. And then we have carrots and celery, which are right here. We also have garlic, which we can add. And since we're going to puree and strain this sauce, you don't have to chop the garlic necessarily, and I don't. Make it easier on us. So also, when we put the liquid in, I'll be putting in herbs and bay leaves. And the thing about the bay leaves is you don't want to puree these, so you got to count them. So there's 3 in, and before we puree it, we'll take 3 out. The beef is searing, pretty hot pan, and then also the onions are cooking. So you want to cook the onions away from the other vegetables and before the other vegetables, so you get good flavor, and also it helps with the color because you want to have a rich brown color. The beef is going to be seared in about a couple of minutes. You want to do this in stages. So I'm making a big batch for about 8 or so people. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch places here. I'm going to let this guy cook a little bit harder. And I'm just going to keep searing these so we can get to the next step quickly and easily. Once again, you just go right in like so. A lot of times there's like little pointers that will show people. Like if you notice just now that the oil splashed, and there's a trick. So a flat pan, when you add stuff, can splash. A tilted pan, because the way you're displacing the oil, doesn't. So tilt the pan. Like so. You can show people the color. Nice color of the ribs, if you want to check that out. So we're about ready here. We got nice color on the onions. going to help our flavors. They're nice translucent. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of the vegetables and we're going to add them in. So that goes in there. This stuff will wait. So you got some nice color. You could go a little darker if you wanted to. And if you really are a stickler, you could sear them on the side as well. But I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to use a little bit of this oil to get things going over there. I'm going to pour a little of the oil off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to deglaze this pan with red wine. Don't do this over the fire. Some people like to use the same wine that they're serving with the dish when they're cooking it, which is a kind of a cool idea, so you have contiguous flavors. So this goes right into here. And now you can add your herbs, your 3 bay leaves, your garlic. And then what you can do is you can just put your beef in. And the liquid. And I'm getting a little worried about how much is going to fit in here. These will shrink up a little bit when they're cooking. So you just want to place them in. So now we're ready to put everything in the oven. You can see it's coming up to a simmer. You want to get it to a simmer before you put it back in the oven. And as I said, these will shrink down a little bit, so you'll find that these things will move into the liquid. And you want to rotate them and check them anyway, so don't be concerned that they're sticking out a little bit on the top. But don't seal it like this. Give it some venting. And the reason that you give it some venting is because you want to make sure that there's airflow through it. If you don't have airflow through it, strangely enough, you'll get a oddly gray-looking sauce. So you want your sauce to be rich and brown. Then you can slide it in the oven. And I would check it after an hour, or let's say 45 minutes. Pull it out, rotate your short ribs, check the degree of doneness, and they'll take literally anywhere from 1 hour to 2.5 hours, and it's really difficult to ascertain. That's why another reason why to make these a day in advance. So we have been in the oven at 350 for about 1.5 to 2 hours. And so I'm getting ready to pull the short ribs out. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of arrange things so that when you get ready to serve, it's easy and it makes sense. So I'm going to go over here to the oven and pull this bad boy out. Fog up my glasses. Okay, so throughout the cooking time, I've been checking these, and some of them are a little bit more done than others, but that's okay. And once again, the reason I do this a day in advance is so that I can handle these and serving them is easy. So just to show you degree of doneness, you can take a fork and you hold the meat, and if it goes in nice and easy like this, and you can see it's starting to shred, it's like, okay, fine, we're done. Oftentimes, it'll fall away from the bone, but I kind of like keeping the bones on there. But you see, this one here is fully cooked, and it actually has fallen off the bone. So we're gonna have to fish the bone out in a minute here. There's a lot of nice carrots and celery and fennel in here that are gonna give us some nice added flavor and also some vegetables in the sauce. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the fridge. And then tomorrow when I serve these, I'll be able to manage cleaning them up, making them look great, trimming off anything I don't like, and then I'm going to take this cooking liquid, I'm just going to reheat them in the cooking liquid. So you can see I'm taking one bay leaf out. Let's see if we can find all three of them in a big hurry here. The branches of the rosemary and the thyme that we used, and you can use any herbs you want. I particularly like rosemary and thyme for braising because they hold up. So what we're going to do is going to be a little noisy, is we're going to take a mixing stick and we're just going to puree it. And so all those vegetables and the herbs and everything are becoming pureed. I don't strain it. Now, some chefs would say, oh, well, you must strain it. And there's a good point to be made for straining it, but I don't think that's necessary because I want these flavors. And I kind of want a heartier approach to it. The perfect accompaniment to this is a very sharp vegetable like Brussels sprouts. Roasted Brussels sprouts would be really good. And then mashed potatoes is my favorite. So you want to make sure that all your vegetables are completely pureed and that you have a sauce and not a chunky stew. And all we're going to do, just going to decant it into a container. Let's hope it all fits in here, which I think it will if I... not quite, but we can put the rest in another container. These here will get cool, and then you can take them, trim them, make them look really perfect, and then serve them with your mashed potatoes and whatever veg. In our case, Brussels sprouts. So that's it. That's braised short ribs, and it's a little bit involved, but it's definitely worth the trouble.